Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Source of Silence. Today we're going to talk about Glocks and how to suppress them. On this table we have an assortment of Glock handguns with the 43, Gen 317, Gen 319, and then the Glock 26. So because all of these handguns are essentially the same on disassembly, we'll start with this Glock 19. You'll drop the magazine, check your chamber, make sure it's clear, go into battery, dry fire. After the trigger is depressed, put downward pressure on the takedown tab, slightly pull your slide back, and then forward, thus removing the slide. After that, you'll remove your recoil spring and your OEM barrel, and then you'll take one of the SilencerCo barrels that is specified for the model and reverse those steps. Now you don't have to pull down on the slide lock tab and you're installed. It's pretty simple, it's easy to do. You don't need any tools to disassemble or swap out the barrels. After swapping barrels, the next thing that you want to consider is whether you need a standard piston or an SN piston. So essentially with the SN piston, it stands for shoulder on the nose. So the biggest differences between the SN and the standard piston is typically where it shoulders. On the standard piston, it's threaded in slightly deeper, so you get more thread engagement on your host, whereas the SN piston, it's going to shoulder a little early on the crown of the barrel. Normally we wouldn't recommend running an SN piston on a full-size handgun, mainly because you're not engaging on all the threads. It will appear that it's loose. You're not going to be shouldered on the back like your standard piston. Now let's go over the most popular suppressors that will work on your Glock. Now with a caveat, we only have our 9mm specific suppressors lined up here. All of our 45 cal suppressors will also work. You just won't get the same sound performance. Starting with the Spectre 9, this is an all titanium suppressor. The OD is a little bit smaller than your typical handgun cans or subgun cans, so you're able to see over the suppressor a little bit easier than some of the larger models. And with it being titanium, it's going to be uber lightweight and you're not going to notice it on the end of your gun. Moving on to the Omega 36M. So this is a modular suppressor that works on virtually anything that you can fit through the bore. Not necessarily the most optimal for handgun, mainly because of how long and heavy it is, but we made sure that it would work and that the sound suppression is still going to be very excellent. This is more of a utilitarian suppressor, so you can take it off of your rifle and throw it on your handgun. It functions well on a lot of hosts, but some of these other suppressors offer better targeted performance than the Omega 36M. Now moving on to the Osprey 9. This is one of our flagship products that we've always been known for with the eccentric monocore design. The cool thing about this is most of your internal volume sits lower than the bore axis, so it doesn't obstruct your sights and doesn't get in the way of both irons or your red dot. The cool thing with the updated Osprey is it does have that button instead of the cam lever, so it's a lot easier to index and time perfectly with any of your pistol hosts. It's a great handgun can, and it leads into the next generation, which is the S98. So very similar in the eccentric design. This is a full titanium construction, so much like the Spectre 9, it's going to be super lightweight. You're not going to notice it on the end of your gun, and with features from the Osprey, it's going to be a low bore axis. Nothing is going to get in the way of your iron sights if you're running irons, and you're not even going to see it if you have a red dot. The other cool thing about the S98 is it will be coming out with the QD booster system. Once you have it mounted up to a handgun, you can quickly detach and run it between different hosts if you have that same muzzle device. And then the last can we'll talk about today is the Omega 9K. So this has been one of the most popular handgun cans just due to its simplicity. It's great on subgun and pistol. 17.4 stainless steel construction. It's a bit of a tank. It's a little bit heavier than some of our other cans, but for its size, the sound performance is really hard to beat. So we've talked about barrel installation, we've talked about boosters, and we've talked about the suppressors that will work on your handgun. Now let's test each of these suppressors. So we're gonna start with the S98 and 147 grain American Eagle. One thing to note, once again, that low bore axis of the suppressor makes it so you can see over the suppressor with factory Glock iron sights. Next up, we have the Osprey 9 with the Glock 19. So you'll notice that this sits a little bit more proud than the S98, but still with iron sights, you're able to superimpose past the suppressor. Now we've got the Omega 36M in the long configuration. Remember, it's modular, so if you want it shorter, you can go shorter with the Glock 19 and 147 grain American Eagle. Now we've got the Spectre 9. Once again, all titanium, so uber light, not even gonna notice it on the end of the gun. One thing to note is with the titanium suppressors, it does get hotter quicker, so you do want to be careful where you stow it after you're done shooting. Now, last but not least, the Omega 9K, tried and true, with the Glock 19. So there you have it. You now know how to suppress your Glock series of handguns and some of our favorite suppressors for them. Now it's up to you to get your own. We'll see you next time.